After years in the diplomatic deep freeze, 2023 marked a turning point of sorts in the relationship with China. The Prime Minister heralded the stabilisation, capped off by the release of journalist Cheng Lei and Anthony Albanese's own visit to Beijing. But will the momentum last? And what's in store for 2024? Let's go live now to David Goodman. He's the Director of China Studies, the China Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. David, thanks for your time today. What's your assessment on the state of the relationship?
I think a good first few steps has been taken into stabilising the relationship between Australia and China. Long way to go. There's been a lot of uncertainty over the last few years, and in terms of economic working together, I think we're still a long way off that. But there's an understanding that that might be possible. Of course, in political terms, there's no meeting of minds between the two governments, other than to say we will agree where we can and disagree where we can't.
And we know the PM loves to say that. That's his favourite line on China, that where we can, we should try and cooperate with China. But that
yes,
there is huge underlying differences between the two countries that can't be papered over. The fact that leader-level talks are presumed good, surely, from a diplomatic perspective. But where to from here? Do you think we will see a visit from a senior Chinese leader to Australia next year, potentially President Xi himself?
I think that's not impossible, but of course these things will be affected by the uncertainties that are coming up in the not so distant future. I mean, there are two elections which are really important that may affect that's to say Australia's relationship with China. One is the election of the new president in Taiwan, and the other is the election of the president in the United States. And both of those could create great uncertainties, not only for China, but also for our relationship with China. Taiwan, because if a pro-independence, dramatically pro-independence candidate wins, then anything becomes possible from the Taiwan side, which might lead to reactions within China or by the Chinese government. And then in the United States, to be frank, if Trump wins, you can never tell what might happen with respect to his China policy. I read in the paper this morning, in fact, that he was talking about a more aggressive stance towards China, which, of course, makes things very difficult for other people sometimes.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Taiwan presidential election. It's going to be held on the 13th of January. If that pro-independent candidate wins the election, what are the big risks? Do you really see it as a viable option that Beijing would have some sort of military action in the Taiwan Strait? Is that actually a realistic prospect?
No, I don't see that as being, well, it depends what you mean by military action. So let's start at the obvious absolute disaster scenario, which is, will they invade? No. The conditions for that are a long way distant, including the People's Liberation Army ability to conquer and hold Taiwan, which are just not in sight. Also, of course, the new Taiwanese government would have then to say what it's never said before, which is, we are now completely independent. We want nothing more to do with the People's Republic of China. What Taiwanese governments have done with great expertise over the last few decades is maintain what you might call managed ambiguity. We are part of China, but not part of the PRC. And I expect that will happen again, but you can never tell. Of course, this is politics.
What about the potential of a grey zone action, if you want to put it like that, about something that China were to do, but it wouldn't reach that formal threshold of, say, a military invasion, which you say is a complete impossibility? What about that sort of scenario?
Yes, I mean, sorry, I should have gone on to talk about that a bit more. In the event that there are particular forms of words coming out of the new government in Taiwan that suggest independence, or that other people elsewhere in the world regard as moving in that direction, there is the possibility of naval manoeuvres in the Taiwan Straits, and as we've seen in the past, and the firing of missiles and so on. So it's a very dangerous situation in lots of ways, but it's not The position of the People's Republic of China is quite clear. They've said that basically they prefer unification peacefully, but if that doesn't happen, they always reserve the right to do it militarily.
Fascinating time in international relations coming up. We're going to keep a very close eye on those Taiwan elections. Thank you, Professor Goodman, for your time. I really appreciate it.